There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hey again, BookTube. I'm Sean the Book Maniac, and today's my first Friday Reads video. I'm excited. Trying some natural light coming through the window here. Let's see how this looks. Anyway, so I'm just going to quickly run down some of the, I guess all of the books that I'm currently reading, or should be. So let's get started. First up is an African novel I just started last night. I think it's going to be really good. So that's a K in the title, but it's actually pronounced with a ch, so the novel is Chintu, and the author is Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi. Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi. I did quite a bit of internet research to get that right, hopefully, but yes, Chintu, not Kintu. It's about it's a saga from the mid-18th century to the present in Uganda, and about a curse on this family. It's a doorstopper, almost 450 pages, and I have a good feeling about it. It's starting out really good. The writing is simple and powerful so far. I'm getting more and more into African literature in the last couple of years, and this cover is so beautiful. So I'll keep you updated. I'm something like 30% of the way into this one. If you saw my discussion video, I'll link to it below, about audiobooks, ebooks, and physical books. Now this one is a case in point about the advantages and disadvantages of each. I started this on audio. Liked the narrator at first. I don't want to regurgitate. You can go look at the video. But I didn't like the narrator, so then I just stayed with the ebook, and I'm enjoying the ebook, but I already can tell at about the 30% mark that this is going to be one of my top reads of the year, unless something goes horribly, horribly wrong in the rest of the book. So I got a hardcover copy that was delivered this morning. My Absolute Darling by Gabriel Talent. There's been lots of buzz about it. I'm not one easily seduced by buzz, but I actually heard another booktuber, Liv, review it, and that's what pushed me over the edge. Plus there was a lot of very mixed reviews on Litsy and on Goodreads. I'm finding it really powerful. It's a debut. It's about a father who is incredibly abusive towards his daughter, including incest. So it's a very disturbing story. I don't know where the story's going, but he has created such a wonderful protagonist in this 14-year-old girl. I feel so powerfully connected to her story and rooting for her in such a deep way that it's just really compelling. So it's not perfect by any means, and I'll have a lot more to say when I'm done. But I love, this is the UK cover. The US cover is interesting, but doesn't evoke the feeling of this book nearly as much as this cover. That is her. Her name is Turtle. The 14-year-old protagonist's name is Turtle, and that is Turtle. Oh my God. You may have seen my Part 3 video about my August book haul, in which I was jokingly saying that I go back and forth from one day to the next between opining that Alice Munro is the greatest short story writer in the world and Mavis Gallant is. So I am this year reading this collected stories of Mavis Gallant. I started it in January and I won't finish it until probably the last day of December. I'm savoring it. There's 52 stories here. I hope to read a little bit more of this. Mavis Gallant never got as famous as her writing merited. And I think it's because, and the introduction by Francine Prose here, I think gets at why. She was a Canadian woman who, after getting divorced and becoming a journalist in Montreal, quit her job, I think it was 1950, up and moved to Paris and started writing. And I think maybe her very first story that she submitted to the New Yorker was published, and the New Yorker magazine published almost all of her stories for the rest of her writing life. Mavis Gallant died 3 years ago. She was 91. But her stories are all about expatriates and exiles, rootless, uprooted people. For example, Canadians in Paris, Parisians in Italy, Italians in the UK. And so she wrote in English, lived in Paris, stories were published in America, and she's Canadian. So nobody could quite pin her down or claim her. She's a writer's writer in many. She has a loyal following, but she's not as widely known as Alice Munro is, but certainly equal to her in quality. So I'll hope to read a few more pages of this today. The other novel I started this week is The Water Beetles by Michael Kahn. He's a writer from Winnipeg, Canada. This is his debut. He is mixed race. His father is Hong Kong Chinese and mother is Canadian, which I assume means white, but I don't know that for sure. And this is a story based on his father's experiences of being a boy in Hong Kong during the opening to World War II, and specifically the Japanese invasion of Hong Kong. And I'm just starting it. I'm finding the writing really good. I'm doing a buddy read of it with a few people on Litzy, and there's been some mixed reactions to it, but so far, and I'm only a few chapters in, I'm finding it quite engaging. And I've been reading this baby for about 3 months, and I know I'm going to finish this month, but it might not be I might draw it out till the end of September. The Makioka Sisters by Junichiro Tanizaki. This is a 1940s novel from Japan. I love this novel so much. It's a family, not saga, but a family story about 4 sisters. The writing is just so lovely, and the story is about 1,000 times more compelling than I expected. So I will have a lot more to say about it, but it's the kind of book that I'm enjoying it so deeply. And this, in the last few weeks, I tried to give myself a push to read more, to spend more time with this book and finish it off, and I just can't. This is a book that I cannot push myself to finish, perhaps because I don't want it to finish, but it needs to be read very slowly, and it's a big book, but I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm listening to 2 books on audio. I won't say much about them. One is In the Country of Men by Hisham Matar, Libyan writer. It's my first by him. Gorgeous writing. Not loving it, but I am liking it and certainly enjoying the writing. The audio narrator is wonderful. I should finish that up in the next week. Another one is a short 2.5-hour audiobook, maybe 90-page novella. The Tragedy of Brady Sims by Ernest Gaines. Now, Ernest Gaines' novel, A Lesson Before Dying, ripped my heart out when I read it 30 years ago, 25 years ago. And I wasn't even sure that Ernest Gaines was still alive, and he is. He's 84, and this is his new novella. And the audio narration is masterful, and the story is really compelling. Another book, the last book that I'm supposedly reading, is a Chinese novel. I think it won not the Pulitzer, I think it won the Nobel Prize for Literature about 15 or 20 years ago. Seoul Mountain by Gao Xingjian. I'm doing it on ebook, and I got about 20% of the way into it. I was really enjoying it, but it's very slow moving, kind of plotless story that's very satisfying in kind of a meditative way. And then I happened to check the Wikipedia page about a month ago, where it explained that actually there are 2 stories with 2 protagonists. In chapter 1, I, the the first person I is one man, and then in chapter 2, the second person narrator, you, Y-O-U, is a different character, and then they alternate from chapter to chapter. And when I read that, I thought, I had totally missed that. I had been reading the book, a chapter at a time, maybe once a week or twice a week. I hadn't caught the pronoun change, and the experiences. Like I say, there's not a lot that's happening so far in the story, but it seemed like it was all one man. He was kind of doing this meandering, soul-searching trip through China. And no, it's two. So I stopped at that point, and started to go back and make a spreadsheet. I'll put it up here so you can see what I'm doing about the experiences in each chapter, and is it the I guy or the you guy? And then I'll continue reading it. So that's going to take me a while to sort it all out before I can resume reading it, but I was quite enjoying. I think if I'd been reading it like a normal person, reading only one book, I don't ever only read one book, but if I had been, I think I would have noticed this pronoun change, and I would have caught it much earlier. And the last thing I'll say about what's on my mind vis-a-vis books, on this Friday I finished Aaron Daddy Roy's The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. I loved it. It's very my thoughts are all jumbled up. I will be preparing a video review once I can unjumble them to the point where they might make sense to anybody else. But certainly reflecting on this wonderful, rich, enigmatic novel. And I am famous, and I use the word famous very loosely, but I am famous on Litzy, or among any of my reading friends online or elsewhere, for being a notorious bailer. I DNF a lot of books, but this month I didn't bail on one until yesterday, and some of my friends who love this book, many people love this book, are quite surprised that I abandoned it. It's Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. I had never read anything by him, and I had been looking forward to reading this since it came out 15 years ago. I can't remember how long ago, but I didn't like it. I didn't like the writing. I only got about 10% into it, and so I just stopped. Maybe I'll try it again someday, but probably not. So those are the things on my plate this Friday. How about you? I'm looking forward to hearing what you're reading today. Thanks for watching. Bye.